All right. Um, so uh, I was all set yesterday to get into our 10 Reasons book. So we have the 10 Reasons Why Builders and Modelers Fail to Grow. Um, my belief is, and I've seen this over and over and over and over, hundreds and thousands of times probably now, but until we get these 10 reasons solved, we will have it's near impossible, honestly, to grow and scale a business with real profitability that frees us from the business. I think at the end of the day, we start our business wanting to get some freedom of time and money eventually, and unless we get this stuff solved. So I'm not going to go through that today. Eric covered that yesterday, and it was uncanny, honestly, when I was going through it and listening to Eric, because he's covering pretty much everything that sits here. Then it's not by surprise why that would happen, because the truth is this is how to grow and scale a business. Eric knows that as well as anyone and nailed it to a T. So I think what he covered yesterday actually was amazing because, one, it's in the book here as well. There's a lot of free content and resources in here. If you go into the beginning, the opening page, there's a bunch of QR codes that'll lead you to a bunch of free tools on our website. So feel free to check that out. But honestly, I do believe, guys, this is our guide to growing and scaling a business with some freedom and real profitability. And until we get this solved, it's not going to happen. And so I wanted to kind of touch on that. We've got a couple other books before I get started. You'll see if you open this up, there's, on the back here, Pricing Mastery. Our sales system is really, really killer to closing more deals at higher price points, things like that. That's going to really help. As we mentioned yesterday about us being 4-level integrators as well. So helping, you take JobTread to a completely new level. I mean, we're going through some of the stuff with Eric yesterday and what we're doing today with this, and it's off the charts. So there's those things there, which then led me to, okay, what are we going to talk about? We have several different talks and webinars that we do, and we thought, well, really, at the end of the day, we should be talking about systems if we're talking about software, because to me, they go hand in hand. If we're going to use our software, we're going to have systems that correlate and sync with our software. So it's all about systems at the end of the day. Again, Eric touched on all of that yesterday about how important those processes are in our business. This is going to be really about creating more time and money for ourselves through the systems that we're going to leverage with the software, right? So it really does work hand in hand. And so we're going to go through this just quickly on myself. I started my first business in '95, just so you know where I'm coming from and why I'm doing this today. I started my first business in '95. By '98, I knew enough to not know enough. I didn't know nearly enough. And so I got a business coach, started working with him very quickly. Well, quickly was 9 years. But by 9 years, I had ultimate freedom of time and money, which is what we help people do today, where I was removed from my business. My business was paying me extremely well, and I went on and started another business and another business after that. And every one of those, I got myself out of the business as quickly as possible while we're growing and scaling them. And my point is that now that's what we teach people to do and help people to do in 4-level coach and bringing this whole package together. So that's why we're here. I started the Passion Project in 2019, same year as JobTread did. JobTread's just about, maybe 1,000 times further than we are as you look at their numbers and their people and what they're doing. Extraordinary job of what they're doing. Mind-blowing, actually. And again, what Eric talked about yesterday with the company that he worked with in 2018 that led him to developing JobTread is really everything that we have to do in our own businesses if we're ever going to get there, which goes back to that 10 Reasons book. So really dive into that and take advantage of it. We talk about two things all the time: profit before growth, systems before people. Eric nailed this yesterday, right? He said, just don't go out and throw people at our problems. You try to do that, it won't work. Has anybody hired people, thought they were going to give us some freedom and they cause more chaos, frustration, and overwhelm? Right? It happens all of the time. And it's really because we didn't have the systems in place before the people, or at least simultaneously, right? So if we're going to add people, we're going to throw people at our problems, well, we better make sure that we got some systems and training in place that's going to really help them do what you want them to do. Because far too often we get upset because they're not doing what we want them to do, but we haven't given them anything to be successful, right? So we need to like step back and make sure we're doing that. The profit before growth piece is one of the, well, there's really 2 of the 10 reasons there, is we need financial literacy and pricing mastery before we're going to get our numbers right and get the profit right. And I would say, guys, please don't go and try to grow your business and add more revenue on the front end while it's just pouring out the back, right? Because we don't have our numbers right and we don't have this thing dialed in. And the systems are the critical piece to that. So touch on just quickly before we get rolling here is why do we need systems? Really about that consistency. Everything is consistency. Doing the same thing consistently over time so that this thing starts to look like a well-oiled machine. If it doesn't look consistent in everything we're doing, we do not have our systems dialed in and we're not leveraging them, right? So training is going to be critical. Again, if we throw people at our problem, we don't have training in place for them. How do we help them be successful? That's part of the challenge. So there's gaps all the time in this stuff. Just being more efficient. Stopping the bleeding is a huge one. We do business assessments. We do this all the time. And we see a minimum of $50,000 falling through the cracks of every builder, remodeler business we've ever worked with. So there's literally a minimum of 50K, usually 100K plus, depending on your revenue and when you're starting to grow a little bit more. That dollar grows with us. So absolutely critical. Got to stop the bleeding. Of course, scalability. That's critical. If we want to scale a business profitably, we're going to need these systems. The next big one, right? One of the hardest things for most of us to do is trusting and letting go, right? This is our baby. We got control of it. No one else can do it like we can do it. That's that mindset that we got to shift out of to be able to trust and let go so we can get this right. And then really at the end of the day, to me, we will always be able to make a living in this business, but will we ever make a fortune? And there is a fortune on the table. We'll wrap this up at the end with the winning lottery ticket that's in everybody's pocket. I truly believe this. I know this. I see this all the time. We have winning lottery tickets in our pocket. This business has massive, massive opportunities. And look, the bar isn't so high that we can't surpass it, right? There's a lot of low-hanging fruit out here for us to be better than our competition, right? So the bottom line is there is a fortune. Everyone's got it in their pocket. You just got to get this systemized thing right in order to actually go out and grab it, right? So the formula is inside the systems and the software, honestly, right? So this is a good day to be doing this one. The truth is, again, we got holes in our boat. If we're trying to grow our business and we're, just bailing water constantly, anybody bail water constantly, right? Honestly, like that is a battle. And if we're trying to get to the ocean and that's the goal and the vision is the other side, we're never going to get there if we're bailing water. So we got to tighten up the holes first before we actually get there. And we got to get off the hamster wheel, right? That feeling of running 1,000,000 miles an hour, never getting anywhere. That's the truth of honestly what's going on. So the question we always get is like, where do we start? How do we get, even started on the system side and writing SOPs and what the heck does that even mean? And then how do we use it and leverage it anyway, right? So the point is, we think about it as IRCs, issues, roadblocks, and challenges in our business. Where they're there. Anybody have issues, roadblocks, and challenges, right? This is a tough business, 1,000 moving parts every day. And the bottom line is we've got to get these issues, roadblocks, and challenges dealt with before we're going to get to the other side of that ocean, honestly, right? So we have to deal with these IRCs. We have to reduce and eliminate them. Now, I would start with the biggest impact that we have in our business. Which one is costing us the most money? Do we know that? Which ones are costing us this money over and over? Which of these IRCs that is going to have the biggest impact on our bottom line and our team's ability to grow and scale? So I have to know what this is, and I've got to be keeping an eye on these IRCs. So we use this language in our programs because it starts to sit in and hit home for people that this is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to eliminate these IRCs. That's it. If we can eliminate them, we'll keep moving. The more we eliminate, the better we get. And now this thing starts working like a well-oiled machine. And that's, again, I didn't read a book to figure this out. I've been able to do it in my own businesses, and that's why we understand this stuff today. The problem is not knowing what to do with these IRCs and no time to figure it out. I would say one of the no time to figure it out is the biggest challenge, right? Their bandwidth and time. And here's what my belief is this is what's happening. We use this metaphor all the time, is we don't have the time because we're going 100 miles an hour, right? We're trying to get to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. We're trying to jam more revenue in the front end while money's just pouring out the back. So I take this metaphor of, imagine if you put all the money in the back seat of your truck, but you're running down to get to the next thing and the next thing, and we're literally, it's nonstop. Every morning we wake up, we got 100 things to do. We don't have enough time to do it, and we're running, but we don't slow down to speed up. What ends up happening is we're driving with the windows down with that cash in the back, and it's just blowing as we're trying to move more in the front. So I don't know if anybody resonate with that one. Like that one is a common, and I can't get to it because I'm too busy, yet being busy is not going to get us there, right? We literally have to just go, whoa. And again, you're in the right room here today getting the software right? Taking the time to do this. You've slowed down today to do this, right? Because if we don't leverage that software or ever use it, then, how are we ever going to get there, right? So we got to slow down. We got to stop that bleeding from happening. So this is what I believe is the missing link. And this isn't common. It's not common language in the industry. It's 4-level language. But I believe what's missing in every builder remodeler business is what we call a system CIA. So a system CIA is system creator, implementer, and accountability person, right? And now we can create systems all day long, but if they don't get implemented, they're useless. If they get implemented and we don't keep our teams accountable to using them, just like our software, then they're useless. And so we have to have this system CIA, somebody responsible for making sure that this stuff's actually happening and we're leveraging it, using it, and we're doing it, right? So what's the role of the system CIA? It's really to identify company-wide IRCs. This is the truth. Let's go back to the issues, roadblocks, challenges. Let's make sure we're identifying those on a weekly basis. Let's take the biggest ones and let's make an impact on those. Let's not try to cover everything. We're never going to get it all done at once anyway, so let's focus on the most impactful points. That's critical, right? To create and implement these new systems, of course, that's critical. They have to be able to help us create and implement this stuff. And then hold everyone accountable, right? Now it's holding everyone accountable to actually using and developing these systems together, right? And then we better be tracking it, right? So at the end, it's now about tracking and making sure that the systems are working, and then what we call scoreboarding, right? We want to be tracking, measuring those results, and then making process improvements as we go. Because the time we implement that first system, it's never going to be flawless, right? So we got to be, this is the system, that's the role. Now, we have what we call our 8 steps for managing, eliminating those IRCs. And really that's the key to this whole thing from a system CIA standpoint. Now, I should reiterate here, what are we talking about when we're talking about a system CIA? So that CIA does not have to be, and in most of our businesses, unless we have a fairly large business, until you get to a certain size, we don't need a system CIA full-time. What we need is usually our administrative help, our back-end business side help, or a good project coordinator that's really sharp on systems and is a systems thinker and creator. That's who we need to get focused on this. This is a part of what they do, right? So think about just shifting a role and adding this to their role and taking this thing to another level. Now, again, you may not follow all of these 8 steps. If you don't, we're probably going to have some challenges. But the bottom line is I want to just drop the idea, plant the seed of the principle of this, that if we're not looking at our systems, eventually we're going to run into problems. We're going to have holes in the boat, we're going to be on the hamster wheel, and we're never going to make a fortune. We'll always likely make a living, right? So the truth is, how badly do you want this? And this is really the question we almost always ask, right? How badly do we want what we want, and what are we willing to do about it? It lies in this. It really does. So let's get into number 1. We work with the system CIA role is to work with different employees in different areas, right? So it's project management issues, job site issues we're having. Where are the issues, roadblocks, and challenges? Let's deal with each of those using what we call our process improvement generator, right? So we're looking at how is the current system, what are we doing now? And the truth is we all have systems in our businesses today. From the sheer fact that we do something, we have a process. We may not have it formalized. We may not have it be intentful yet. But the truth is we have a system for doing what we're doing. We just haven't developed it. We haven't put it on paper. We haven't formalized it. But we have a system. So let's map out what the process is today. How are we doing it now, right? And if we've never done that before, this will be eye-opening. Now, next is really using this process improvement generator. 3 simple questions. What's working at each one of the steps? What's not working? What could we do differently? That's it. That's how simple that is. And if you did that for each one of your steps, you're going to find all of the areas where the complete game changer. And usually it comes down to technology, right? Eric talked yesterday, one of the 10 was leveraging technology, right? So it's using technology, finding efficiencies, making things better and easier, right? So that is going to be part of this, right? We refer to this as having a systems meeting. Let's make sure, and we have SOPs for that. Let's make sure that systems person is meeting with our people. They're having a meeting to go through it. They're pulling out the IRCs. They're going through the process improvement generator, or at least you're leveraging those 3 questions, right? What's working, what's not, and what could we be doing differently? That'll change the game. Number 2 is to create the new SOP. So once we've got it figured out, we went through it, and what you're going to find is what could we do differently is basically creating the new system, right? Because what we would do differently is not what we're doing yesterday. This is going to be the improvement. This is how we figure it out, right? So we literally go through, we've got to write the new SOP. And then we are meeting with the owner frequently. So whoever that system CIA is, meeting with the owner, making sure that the new SOPs make sense, that they get it from a bigger picture standpoint. They're moving that through the system, right? That's going to help us change everything. As I sit here, and I think Stephanie joined us recently, because we're at the point in our business where we need a full-time system CIA, right? We're at that point, there's so much going on, and there's so many things that we see falling through the cracks that I got to get a handle on. We need somebody to do this. Stephanie's role is a system CIA right now, right? And joined us just a few weeks ago and has already transformed a lot of what we're doing and creating, right? So it happens very fast if you get a grip of this thing, right? So that's number 3. And that owner's meeting, we got to sort out what are we meeting about and how does that look, right? So it's basically sharing the new SOPs. What is it? Does it match the bigger vision of the business? Does it make sense long-term or short-term? And how do we get this done? So there's owners meetings that are going to be part of this, right? There's systems meetings, owners meetings. Remember, this is somebody that's responsible. If we have no one responsible for this, it's not happening, right? We know that. So who is responsible? Let's get somebody there. Number 4 is implementing the new system, right? So again, CIA, implementation is critical. Has anybody tried to implement new systems and it just failed? Right? We didn't follow it, failed. I'm seeing nods of heads. So we've tried this stuff. It's hard. This is not easy to do, right? So we have to be consistent. It all goes back to being consistent because there is simple math, right? There is a system to creating new systems. But if we don't follow that system in creating new systems, then it's going to fall off the table because there's no consistency to it, right? So that's a big part of it. We got to be implementing these new systems into the departments, right? And meeting with those departments, making sure they're all part of it, making them accessible is critical. Make them easy to use and get sign-off. Sign-off is huge, right? Because sign-off, if we don't know that somebody is actually following it, understanding it, knowing it or not, we're not going to get the buy-in, right? So we've got to get sign-off and buy-in. And then making them accessible, right? What's a great place to make them accessible? Number 1 is JobTread, right? So there's ways to leverage JobTread in a way that we can create and keep all of our SOPs in there. If you create a job for systems in JobTread and use that job as your house for all of your SOPs, right? Or you might want to create different jobs for different positions depending on the size of your organization. I think you gentlemen have a fairly decent sized organization, I'm imagining, right? A number of people, you might want to leverage it in different ways, right? Of course, Google Drive or any drive, a Dropbox, you can do it manually. Manually will likely not work for long. And then, of course, Trainual is another one. It's a great platform, software, leveraging technology. Trainual is built for this, right? That is what it's for. Number 5 is holding everyone then accountable. The problem is when we don't, when I think you ladies back there said you've tried to implement and it didn't work. Most likely it's because of this one. The accountability piece, people not actually using it, then it falls off. We kind of lose sight of it. We don't talk about it anymore. And it's like, oh yeah, what happened to that system we talked about? Why aren't we doing that anymore? Right? So that happens really quickly. So we've got to keep people accountable to that and then maintaining that new system. And here's the thing, it doesn't really stop there because the truth is when we implement a new system, we've got to be tracking the results of that system that was implemented. Now again, this may seem like this is a lot of extra work, right? But do we want more cash flowing out the back or would we like to slow down and try to keep more of it in the truck, right? And this is really what we're talking about here. And if we're going to keep more of it in the truck, then we can, we've got more profitability. Now let's grow. Because let's not grow until we get more of this stuff together. Otherwise, again, we're just running on that hamster wheel. And then number 7 is review and evaluate the success of the new systems. Because what we're going to have is new IRCs are going to pop up throughout this process. We're going to realize things that we didn't realize when we created it. We're going to have other issues come up. Now we've got to change that. And this has got to be a work in progress. Again, if nobody's responsible for keeping their eyes on this thing blows up and it's very difficult to manage and maintain, but it is the gold that lies here. Again, JobTread, I see, with Alex and Eric here, you guys are building an incredible business, but extremely tight, right? Extremely tight. It has to be. People are being hired constantly. There's systems in everything. There's systems in hiring, Alex, right? It's like everything has to be consistent or this thing doesn't work. It's not going to work, right? So we've got to review and evaluate the success of those systems for the new unforeseen IRCs, right? And then number 8 is simply adjust course, right? We're reviewing, we're evaluating, we're adjusting course. In fact, that's the way to execute anything. We call it our execution loop. It's measuring, tracking, reviewing, evaluating, and adjusting course on everything we're doing on a weekly basis, right? And we should be doing that with our systems through a system CIA that's responsible for this, right? And then we adjust course, we continue to eliminate, and then we get it right, and now we sail, right? And that's the beautiful part. And ultimately what it does is eliminate this, right? And if we can get this eliminated, we can then cash this thing in. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. You guys have got it in your pocket. You're all sitting there with it right now. I know you don't realize it or feel it. Often we don't feel it. We go, yeah, he's full of you-know-what, because there's no way I've got that in my pocket, how hard I work and where I'm at right now. But the truth is, you're not that far away from it, right? We're often only 3 feet from gold. Anyone heard the 3 feet from gold line? We're digging and digging and digging, and we're 3 feet from gold. We just got to get across this finish line. And honestly, this thing is there. There's a formula to cashing this in. And honestly, it sits in this thing right here. The 10 reasons, we get that dialed in, we cash that in. We don't get this dialed in, we'll make a living, not a fortune. And it's just a fact. And then we got to get our systems and software right. And honestly, we got to get our time and teams right. So that's part of the 10 reasons. Get your time and teams right with your systems and software. You've got the gold mine, cash in the ticket, it's over, we're done. Any questions on anything we went through on the system side? It's very difficult, not easy, but a simple process that's got to be followed. There's a system to creating systems. Yeah.
Do you see, hey, here's a base set of systems that everyone has to have, but depending on the size and scope of the business, that they might have more systems than another?
Yes. Yeah, I think 100%. There's, I think the standard, at least the base level, look at the process of a new client, right? We have marketing. There's marketing going on. What's our marketing system look like? Because it's a system. What are we doing? What are we tracking and measuring and evaluating, adjusting course there? And then new leads come in, new clients come in. What's our sales system look like? Because again, we're out selling, but do we have a sales system that's repeatable, that we can actually improve? Because whatever gets measured gets improved, right? If we don't measure it, we can't improve it, right? So we just keep doing the same stuff. So I go through, the whole client journey, right? And we need systems along the way in that client journey. What we do is map out, we do a process audit, for every client, and we go through this process audit. And we start with,